Where else can they find us, Steve?
Oh, they can find us on Facebook. They can find us on Twitter. And they can find us on Instagram.
Yes, sirree.
I feel like that was too much cowbell.
Nope.
There's
Really?
never
You
too
don't
much
think so?
cowbell.
Never too much cowbell.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
Well, you guys kind of fell on each other on that one.
That's all right. Leave it.
Okay. All right.
That was stereo, man. Stereo.
My name is Rob Minot. You notice the pause there?
Robino?
No, not Rob Minot. Joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury
That's me.
and Mr. Steve Barclay.
That's Stibberkley to you.
It's the Barclay.
Stibberkley.
How you guys doing?
Oh, just swell. It is so nice and frickin' balmy here.
Yeah. Okay. We should talk about that. Tell us where you were last week and how cold it was.
I was in Saskatoon, and it was in the minus 20s with a wind chill, which took it down to, the coldest I saw was minus 43. By the time I walked out that morning, it was minus 39.
That's insanity.
cold.
Minus 43?
Yeah.
Like,
There's no places that have been minus 50 this year, 51. It's crazy this year.
it's just,
Like I grew
it's
up in
getting scary.
I grew up in Grand Prairie, Alberta, which is, northern Alberta, and I think we may have had, in the 18 years I was there, minus 40 twice. But
Yeah.
I can't imagine like what you had, like minus 43, minus 50 that other places have had. That's
Yeah,
just insanity.
Calgary's getting hit really hard this week. Again, I
Yeah.
think they're back down to minus 40 something.
Yeah, the whole East is just getting clobbered right now. It's crazy.
Holy cow. I mean, you can't even, you can't do anything with any sort of exposed skin.
Well, you can. It's just not pleasant.
I see.
Wear a toque and a scarf.
Yeah.
You really do. After
Cover
being
up.
in Vancouver for so many years, I mean, you just forget how cold that is.
Well, it's funny, because when I left Vancouver, I thought it was cold. When I got back to Vancouver, I'm like stripping off my outer jacket. It's like, whoo, okay. So nice. So nice. Yeah, you develop a whole new appreciation.
Well, the downside to, here, or the upside to being, in Alberta or further east, is that it can be like minus 40, but it's sunny out, it's dry. Here we get that damp humidity that just soaks into your bones, and then you can't get warm. It sometimes feels colder here just because of the dampness.
Yeah, that's true. That's what we tell ourselves anyway.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
So we don't look like wimps when we're complaining.
It's
that
minus 6.
It's minus. I have a buddy in Calgary, and that's the game we played last week. I text him and I'd be like, "Oh my God, it's minus 6," and he'd be like, "Shut up."
Now, the bigger issue that I had while I was on the road, the bigger issue I had was this. This is my alarm when it goes off in the morning. Okay.
Well, that would make you have to pee.
Interesting.
See, it's a nice gentle
Yeah, I like
wake
that.
up sound. Not too jarring.
Right.
So while I'm at the hotel, I discovered there was a pipe directly behind the headboard of the bed, and anytime somebody in the top 3 floors of the hotel flushed their toilet, I heard the sound of water running. And I have trained myself so that I can hit the snooze button before the dings start happening in that alarm. So the moment I hear running water, it's like, boom, I'm awake. And all night I kept on waking up because somebody upstairs would flush the toilet.
That's funny.
So, yeah, I didn't get a lot of good sleep there.
And how many days were you there?
3 days.
Oof.
Well, 3 nights.
Oof. Hey, Ryan,
Rob,
what are we doing today?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
You
Stop
certainly do.
lying.
We are talking with Shawn Marsolais from Blind Beginnings.
Tell us a little bit about Blind Beginnings.
Well, Blind Beginnings is an organization founded by Shawn Marsolais, and it teaches critical life skills and independent skills to blind and visually impaired kids, and also educates their families around issues related to low vision and blindness.
Yeah, it's an absolutely amazing program.
See, he's
we're
way more-
we're so lucky in BC.
He's way more eloquent than I would have been.
That's true.
Abs-
Well, that is
absolutely,
true.
Yep.
You guys want to talk some news?
Oh, let's talk news.
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 So Walmart is phasing out their greeters. At about 1,000 stores all around the U.S., workers with disabilities who fill many of those jobs are being told that their jobs are being eliminated.
Douche move, Wally World.
Boo. Hiss boo.
Yeah.
Walmart told greeters around the country last week that their positions would be eliminated on April 26 in favor of an expanded, more physically demanding customer host role. To qualify, they will need to be able to lift 25 pounds, climb ladders, or stand for long periods of time.
Right. So
That came to a heavy blow to greeters with cerebral palsy, spina bifida, and other physical disabilities. And I would add to that seniors as well. There's
Yeah.
a lot of seniors that work those jobs as well. For them, a job at Walmart has provided needed income, served as a source of pride, and offered a connection to the community. Now Walmart, America's largest private employer, is facing backlash as customers rally around some of those chain's most visible and beloved employees. I was surprised to hear this, but after digging a little bit, this is something that's been in the works for a couple years now. They've been slowly phasing these positions out. As early as 2016, I think I read, they came out with this idea that they wanted to change that greeter position into a customer host position that would be able to help with returns, go get carts, do whatever needed to be done over at the front of the store, as opposed to just greeters. And from the sounds of it, even last year, they did an initial round of restructuring. I'm not sure how big it was. I don't think it was very big, but they were able to keep it low key enough that the word really didn't spread. And this particular phase is a second round of obviously larger restructuring, I'll say. And unfortunately for Walmart, social media actually took notice this time. And that's where a lot of this backlash is, because the media really got a hold of it and started running with these stories.
Well, there should be backlash. I mean, this is a company that last year made $6.67 billion in profit. It's 51% owned by the Walton family.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So the Walton family themselves could put an end to this today if they wanted to.
Yep.
And, show that they were actually something more than money grubbers. But unfortunately, Walmart has always been an employer that has been less interested in their employees than they have been in their profits.
Well, okay, and before we pull out the flamethrowers, we'll temper it a little bit in saying that there have been recent articles where they have gone on record saying that they're going to try their best to make sure that their current employees are able to find other positions at their Walmarts. So they want to try to keep everybody employed. Now, granted, I think a little bit of that is just corporate posturing.
Yeah.
And what they kind of have to say. I mean, I am not a proponent of Walmart by any means. I don't think that they are a corporate golden standard by any means. But then again, the flip side of that is that they did create the program in the first place in the early 2000s. The whole idea of that greeter position and being able to employ people with disabilities, seniors, that was started by them in the first place. And we have to kind of give them a little bit of credit for that. I mean, yes, it was great optics for them. They got a lot of praise for it. Companies do this all the time. Companies restructure. People lose their jobs because their positions have been phased out all the time.
I don't shop at Walmart, and I won't shop at Walmart unless I have no other option.
Fair enough.
I avoid that store like the plague, and I have ever since they showed that they were willing to shut down a store entirely rather than let it go union.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that story.
Yeah. They are not interested in people making a living wage at Walmart. Mm-hmm. All across the U.S., Walmart employees have to rely on food stamp programs.
That's right. I remember
because
that too.
They can't get good paying full-time positions out of Wally World. So, I have very little respect for the company's policies, particularly surrounding how they treat their employees. And this is just, for me, just one more nail in the coffin for them.
But it makes you wonder why, was it just good optics? Why did they create it in the first place? Like, what was it about? Because
I don't know.
I mean, honestly, like there have been people where they heaped praise on Walmart for creating this program in the first place. Mm-hmm. And really, what other big corporation, a retail chain or otherwise, has any sort of a similar program in place for people with disabilities?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but to create the position and then pull the rug out from under him, I think is really stinky.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I don't buy this idea of they're going to find other positions for the greeters within the stores. I don't think that there are other positions. Mm-hmm. That, like I said, if there was a greeter that was working as a greeter and there was another position in the store that they would have been able to go do, they probably would have transitioned from greeter to that position over the 5 years that they worked at Walmart anyways, if there was such a position that they could go to. And I think that what's going to happen with this is it's all going to sort of depend on store to store. There's not going to be grand sweeping layoffs, or I don't know what they're calling these. I guess there wouldn't be layoffs. There would just be literally just your position doesn't exist anymore. See ya. I think that those will happen on an individual basis. I think that Walmart will point to certain special cases where it's just like, oh, look, Frank, we were able to put Frank in the self-service checkout position. So, and he has cerebral palsy. So, he's able, and they'll claim that as a victory. But I think in general, I think that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs.
I imagine. So don't shop at Walmart. Boycott Walmart.
Well, but I think the bigger, more important discussion is, especially with these big corporations, there's an element of social responsibility that we should put on them to, like, why are there not positions created that where people with disabilities could be employed?
We used to hear a lot of stuff around equity in both in schools, universities, colleges, as well as in the workplace, and you don't hear as much about that anymore. Whether it be racial equity or equity for people with disabilities. Maybe, I don't know, was it just a hot topic of the 90s or something that faded away and we really don't care about social justice anymore? Or is it just a byproduct of our society getting meaner?
I mean, honestly, not to get too far off into the weeds, but I also think it's a little bit of tribalism. Mm-hmm. I think that these days people are immediately painted with one brush or another, depending on what particular opinion they hold about any one given topic. So, if you put, speak up in one sense, boom, okay, well, you're a social justice warrior and you're over there in that camp. And if you have any other sort of contrary opinion, well, whoop, you're way over there on the right.
Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's part of the problem is that, and that type of attitude doesn't really encourage discourse. People are losing the ability to actually talk calmly and rationally to each other without getting into screaming matches and calling each other names.
Shut up, Rob, you jackass.
Case in point. No, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. This is a really, now, since all this social media went viral, it's pretty high profile now. And so I think Walmart's really sort of trying to figure out how the hell they're going to manage this PR-wise.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they do, but...
and it's sad to say, I think if they just kind of wait for the storm to die out, and then slowly start to roll this stuff out slowly, I think it'll just be the outrage of the week, and then people will kind of forget about it, and they'll just slowly make these changes, and...
it'd be interesting to,
They'll be back to Walmart for the cheap Pop-Tarts.
Yep.
Be interesting to make a note of this and check back in 6 months and see if there is anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We got any good news stories?
No.
Yeah, did we talk about this
yes,
last
we
week?
do. Okay, we do. Okay, yeah.
Didn't we talk about that last week? Trying to get more good news stories on here?
Hold on.
Need more stories about puppies.
Listen, you want to talk something positive? Let's talk about the fact that dentists down in the States are no longer allowed to turn away patients due to disabilities.
Yeah, this one surprised me because I didn't realize they did. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess for people who are, say autistic or have some sort of other developmental disability, going to the dentist is stressful for anybody, but it can be even worse for someone in that position. And I guess what's happened historically is that dentists have found that, it takes, the appointments have to be sometimes a lot longer. There have to be all kinds of special considerations when they're dealing with somebody who maybe has developmental disabilities. And in some cases, I guess some dentists have just felt they weren't able to accommodate them and would just turn them away. So what's happened now is that the American Dental Association has revised its code of conduct that prohibits denial of care across the board like that. So even in cases where that particular dentist maybe doesn't have the equipment or the expertise to accommodate somebody with disabilities, they're required to help the patient find another dentist that does. They're just not allowed to just say, nope, you're out of luck, and turn them away. So, it's a small step. It's a step in the right direction for sure. Now they think it should make them cheaper.
Indeed.
$300 to get my teeth cleaned.
Oh, here's my favorite news article of the week. The writing of this AI is so human that its creators are scared to release it. So...
Oh yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah, so OpenAI, a research firm backed by guys like Elon Musk and a bunch of other wealthy guys, it was founded with the mission of discovering and enacting the path to safe artificial general intelligence. So they developed a new system called GPT-2. Which they say is the next generation of predictive text. And you basically throw some text at it, and then from that point forward, it learns your text, your content, and you can have it write stuff for you. Well, apparently the writing that it does is so realistic and looks so human that the concern is that it'll be used to create fake news stories and disinformation.
Yeah, what really strikes me about this, too, is that I feel like if it hadn't been for the past 5 years of the political landscape that we're at, and the whole idea of fake news and, and all these fake Facebook stories, I feel like if it wasn't for that, we would have just gone right ahead for this technology. Like this whole idea of fake news is such a unique thing that's really only a result of the past few years that
Well, you used to know what the fake news was, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You'd walk into the grocery
Bad
line and
boy.
there's Bat Boy on the Weekly World News. Like, you knew that was fake news.
Exactly.
The National Enquirer,
Yeah.
you looked at it and you went, yeah, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But the Washington Post, you figured they might have some journalistic standards, for example. So yeah, now with social media spreading all of this stuff around as if it's equal, it's a major problem.
But it's really interesting. Like it's interesting that the artificial intelligence and the machine learning has gotten that good. Like that it can literally take, what was it, like 2 or 3 sentences and just continue on and like just completely ape that style to the degree where you wouldn't be able to tell where a human stopped and the machine started. So,
well, even look at the outcry that some people had at Google I/O last year when they had the AI bot calling restaurants to make reservations. Yeah. That human interaction with a bot, that stuff they're just telling us. That stuff is going on all the time. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year.
I think they learned a lot from that. I do. I don't think they're going to make that mistake again. But it's true. But it's good that there is pushback. Mm-hmm. And this particular example of this news story, this wasn't even pushback. This is just the actual, in a really unique twist. The people who actually created it
saying, "Whoa, wait a second,"
are smart enough to go, "Oh, okay, maybe we shouldn't do that."
Yeah, ethics, AI and ethics.
Yeah, I wish more scientists would, because one day there's going to be a scientist be like, "Hey, let's clone an alligator and an ape." And an elephant. Lion together and see what happens, and then let it loose out in the lab. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen.
A lapefant.
Yep. Hey, Steve, why don't you tell the fine folks about Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is a Canadian-based distributor of, guess what? Assistive technology.
I would not have guessed that.
Really? Oh, I got to work something better into the name then. And we do all kinds of low vision and blindness aids, as well as all kinds of physical access aids and accessible furniture, you name it. Visit our website at www.canastech.com.
Rick, let me ask you about this. Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services.
Don't sound so excited about it. Woo! Speaking of repairs.
We are the sister company to Canas Tech. We do the repairs on low vision devices, reading machines, for libraries, braille printers, and pretty well anything in between. We can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
Joining us now is Shawn Marsolais, who is the Executive Director from Blind Beginnings. Well, we've got the normal gang in the room, Shawn. We got Rob.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey. And we got Steve.
Hi, Steve.
He's looking for his... Oh, and a cowbell.
Yeah, it's kind of out of reach, Steve. We should move that.
Yeah, we should move that.
It's on a stand. Pull it closer.
Yeah, but it's...
Well, it's been a year since we had Shawn Marsolais on the show with us. So, Shawn, why don't we play catch-up?
Okay.
Anything interesting happen in the last year?
We did a cool community art project to commemorate our 10 years. So it was this clay sculpture where lots of kids that are involved with Blind Beginnings and their siblings and parents and volunteers all made these clay pieces that we then we made like a mini totem pole with the pole part being white canes. So there's 3 white canes and then a bunch of clay pieces of different shapes and colors on top of like sort of strung, I don't know how to describe it, strung on like a totem pole. And that's kind of, so over the past 10 years, we tried to get families and youth who've been involved, some from the very beginning. And it's kind of like everybody made a piece that represented something that was important to them. Like might be like, I made my hands, sort of like a replica of my hands, and there was the letter B or flowers or I don't know, somebody made a canoe. So that's kind of cool, and it's something that's tactile and can be appreciated whether you can see it or not. And I think we're going to try to have it at our gala this coming up in April, so people can check it out.
Excellent. You should auction it off.
Well, yeah, but we want to keep it. It's sort of, the problem is we still don't have our own place, our own building that's ours.
Right.
But one day, hopefully we will, and then it can be in the lobby, or, it can be sort of a feature that people can check out. So that was something kind of fun we did. Some of our youth also launched a tandem cycling club this past summer, so we partnered with BC Blind Sports and used some of their bikes and actually got a few new tandems donated to us when people heard about the program. And so youth were riding on Sunday mornings through the spring and summer. That was something new. I don't know. I mean, we'd just be kind of ticking along. We're definitely growing. We just posted a position. We're hiring a director of operations. So that's probably the biggest news, because we've kind of gotten to the point where it's really too big for me to manage as the leader of this ship, and I need help. And I really don't get excited about the business side of things, so I need somebody who can oversee the fundraising and the finances and the HR and basically the business, so that I can focus on programs, program development, and continue to be the face of the organization, but just stepping away from some of that business side, which doesn't get me excited.
I got all excited when I saw your job posting. I thought, I'm going to ditch Ryan and Rob.
I knew you would. I knew it. I was actually going to call you and say, don't apply.
Well, the posting's there.
Yeah, I checked the qualifications. I'm utterly unqualified.
Well, we are willing to look at...
No, you're not.
Well, just know that part of the job, his mandate is
we come with him.
He demands 2 assistants.
Well, we'd also love a Blind Beginnings podcast, and we need tech support. So really,
Oh, hey, there you go.
Done. When do we start?
yeah, it's a big deal, definitely, because whoever I hire, I don't think I know this person yet. Like, it's not like we have somebody waiting in the wings to step in. It's truly going to be probably somebody new to us, and I need to like them, and and it might be hard for them too, because working with a founder of any organization can be challenging, right? I want it to be a certain way. I have really high standards, and so I'm handing over like part of my heart to somebody and hoping that they're going to care about it as much as I do, which is, that's a tall order.
I want to talk a little bit about the programs themselves, and some of this might be for people who sort of tuned in on the episode we had you on last. This might be a little bit of review, but step us through some of the different programs that you offer there, and anything that maybe has been new in the past year.
So we have for the past year been partnering with CNIB to provide support to early intervention families. So that's kids birth to 5. Mostly it's the parents that we're working with, not so much the little children. And so because of that partnership, we're looking at families all across the province. And so we really are moving online. So we're offering parent groups online and looking to offer some of our sort of long-standing workshops for youth online as well. So our Creating Confidence workshop, we're trying to sort of convert that to an online workshop, what happens after grad, and then a variety of groups and support groups and workshops for parents as well. Our youth leadership program continues to plug along, and we're having our leadership training weekend April 12th to 14th. So any youth that are 13 to 19 who want to come to Vancouver for a 3-day weekend and learn leadership skills, it's really fun. You get to stay in a hotel and use the SkyTrain to get back and forth every day, and just, kind of encourage independence and hopefully leadership skills. And the hope is that they stay in the program for a year following that and work on projects together. And we've got lots of different youth projects that often it's an idea that the youth have come up with themselves, and we kind of support them to turn it into an actual program. So we've got like a newsletter committee, a technology committee. The tandem cycling group was a youth committee. So it has evolved over time. We, in the past, did a flash mob, and that was a youth project that one of the youth wanted to do a flash mob. So we made it happen. And really, they made it happen. So yeah, it's an awesome program. And then our summer camps. So we have 2 camps every summer. One of them is on Hornby Island, and the other one is going to be in the Fraser Valley. I think it's near Maple Ridge, and I can't think of the name of it right now. And that's a family camp. So the whole family comes, and it doesn't matter how old your child is. Well, as long as they're like 19 or younger. And it's fun. The kids get to do some cooking. They're actually responsible for making sure that we eat at least the communal meals. So they learn some life skills, but we also have some, do some fun activities as well. So lots of fun.
And when you say you're partnered with CNIB, are they kind of helping, like in terms of the parent workshop, say specifically, are they sort of helping by pushing people your way?
I think that I hope so, but basically the partnership it's a Ministry of Child and Family Development contract. So we're a subcontractor. So I work as part of their team, and they have vision specialists that are more the sort of ongoing support to families until their child enters the school system. So they will work with the, infant development or occupational therapist or physiotherapist that's working with the child, and kind of share the vision side of things to those professionals if they don't have that expertise. And then they consult with the families. So if you're working on something specific, like how do I encourage my child to feed himself, then the vision specialist would be there to provide some recommendations. So they're actually visiting families in their homes across the province and case managing. My role is more the networking families to each other. So my job is to create these places for families to come together. So we're also doing regional family retreats. So in November, we went to the Okanagan and we did a weekend retreat for the families in that area. And the hope was that the families come together, they meet each other, and then maybe they're more comfortable to connect online because they've already met face to face. So I'm hoping to do one on Vancouver Island and in the Fraser Valley this year. So the goal is 2 regional retreats per year, but then also doing these regular online groups in the meantime.
Let's talk about the programs themselves, because I feel like a lot of them are very unique and really, really important. How do you come up with some of the programs themselves? Are you talking to people in the community? Are you talking to the kids and asking sort of what issues or hot topics for them that they would like assistance with? How do you kind of brainstorm the programs themselves up?
Well, honestly, a lot of it is like what I wish I had when I was a youth. Or it's taking pieces of what I did have and then adding to it. So, for example, the youth leadership program, there's a really high unemployment rate for people who are blind. And it's not because blind people aren't capable, obviously. It's just, maybe they don't have the confidence, maybe they don't have the skills, or maybe they don't know how to sell themselves, or there's lots of different reasons. And one of them obviously is that maybe people aren't ready to give them a chance. So there's all of that. So how do you prepare youth to be able to face that, right? So when I was a teenager, I went to a program called Go For It, where we had to do mock job interviews, and we learned about career exploration and how to prepare a resume and how to dress in an interview. And they actually videotaped our mock interviews, and then we had to watch them in front of everybody and get feedback, which is like horrifying. But anyways, one that was really important to me was just connecting with other kids like me. And in my daily life, I was the only one in my school that was visually impaired. So I didn't have that opportunity unless I was at camp. And that was really back when I was going to school. That was the only opportunity, was that 1 week of the year in the summer where I got to be with other kids that were like me. And I lived for that. That was like so important to me. So, and I just like, it just didn't seem fair that it was only once a year, and the rest of the year I had to feel really isolated, like I wasn't like everybody else. And this was not the days of, Skype and Zoom and Facebook. It was like literally writing letters and sending them in the mail and then waiting 3 weeks to get one back and having to have somebody read it to me because it wasn't in a format I could read. Like
Right.
things have really changed for the better. So yeah, like some of it is just opportunities to bring youth together. I also don't remember really meeting blind role models when I was young. I didn't really know what I could be, what were the options for me. Not that there has to be somebody blind doing it before I could do it, but I didn't have any kind of idea of what my future would look like. I don't remember meeting a blind parent or anything like that. So that's something else that I really want to bring to these kids, right? Just like normalize it. There's lots of us out there. We're doing awesome things. And so that's part of, like the connection for me is really important, I think. But yeah, so let me think about an example. Creating Confidence is a workshop that I created back. It was one of the first ones. And it's really designed to teach social skills, body language, facial expressions. And literally we have sighted volunteers who give us feedback on what we look like the way we're sitting. What messages does that say to people who can see us? Because when you're blind, sometimes you're not necessarily thinking about like, oh, the way I'm sitting maybe looks like I'm bored, but I'm actually not. I'm just comfortable or whatever. It's something we have to sort of be conscious of. And I think often people don't want to offend us. So they might not tell us if we're doing something quote unquote wrong, socially wrong, because they don't want to offend. But so in the Creating Confidence workshop, this is a place where not like we offend everybody, but we we have to be honest, because we're not helping anybody if we aren't honest, right?
Right.
So, and then things like boundaries, like personal space. Like some blind kids will get in your space. They don't really know where that line is. That's not comfortable for people. And I'm assuming if you're sighted, maybe you notice somebody's facial expression or their body language if you've kind of come into their space too much, but we aren't going to notice necessarily, right? So I remember when I started working with blind youth, I would just take a step back and they would take a step forward, and I would take a step back and they would take a step forward. And before I knew it, my back was against the wall, and I'm like, okay, you're in my bubble. You need to back up. I'm not comfortable, right? And so we talk about that, and we literally practice like standing up face to face, which that's going to be a hard one to do online. And then fashion, like what are kids your age wearing? What do people wear to school? What do they wear to a party? What do they wear to a job interview? And what is in style? Because it changes so much. It's really hard to stay on top of that. And if you can't see what your friends are wearing, and you can't see what people are wearing in the media, hairstyles, all that stuff. So this whole workshop is all about that. And it's really just something I feel I never got. And I think I'm a fairly appropriate, socially appropriate, I think. And I did grow up with a mother who really cares about appearances. So if I was doing something wrong, she definitely would have told me. And at the time, I probably hated that. But now I'm grateful because I do know, you got to face people when they're talking to you, whether you can see them or not. And you need to smile. Sighted people smile a lot, I learned as an adult, like not just when something's funny or makes you happy, but just sort of politely acknowledging somebody with a bit of a smile. And that's something I have to consciously think about to do.
I'm with you. I don't smile.
No?
No.
No. Oh
No,
my gosh,
I don't smile at all.
That's so true. I shot a promotional video with Ryan as a model. And I got it home and I started editing it, and I realized, like, oh my God, I don't think this is usable because he looks miserable. He looks Like he hates his life.
Yeah, Ryan has resting bitch face.
Yeah, he really does.
Well,
I think I do too. It's the concentrating neutral face, and it can look really unapproachable. I know somebody said that to me once. They said, "Yeah, you look unapproachable," and I'm like, "Oh no, that's totally not." But if I'm sitting in a lecture and I'm listening, I'm not thinking that I need to be smiling. But apparently, someone glances over at you, you smile back, and it's just you don't think about it if you can't see all of that.
Well, what I find interesting too, Shawn, is I don't know if you've ever heard, but I don't. My eyes are closed all the time, and I don't have prosthetics. I used to, but when I did wear the prosthetics, my eyelids were open, and your face looks more full of expression. With my eyes closed all the time, I think that really plays a lot into your facial expressions.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, it's something to keep in mind as well as, when I wear my eyes, I have more expression. When I don't, it's like, F you all,
Well, that's your general attitude.
Only with you.
Especially when we
No.
podcast.
I love Steve.
But even like a child that's born without vision, something like a smile, like they'll smile when they're happy and they'll smile, like that's something that happens naturally. But to smile for the camera on cue is actually really hard. And when you're sighted, I think you see photos of yourself and you see the smile and you're like, oh, I don't like that, I want to fix that. Or you can make changes to it. Every time you catch yourself smiling, you probably adjust a little bit until you figure out what you like. But for someone who's blind from birth, they can't do that. So I can think of one of my youth who has such a hard time, and when he smiles, he looks angry, like it's like a grimace, because he's trying to mimic that feeling of when he's laughing, but it's not really natural.
Yeah.
And so, things we take for granted.
But that's why it's such an amazing program, and I think really, really important, because at what other time would somebody who's visually impaired, especially a youth, be able to have these conversations and work this stuff out, if not with their peers in a very safe environment like you provide. So, I mean, I just wish there were programs like yours across the country.
Yeah, it is really important. And I do think that one of the strengths is that, the person leading is blind too. And not that it has to be that way, but I feel like having an adult say to you, this is hard for me too, or I struggle with this, or it sort of gives them permission to be honest about what's going on for them.
Right.
Like we also talk a lot about some of the misconceptions about blindness. So what might sighted people be thinking about us, just on face value, and then how to make people comfortable with our blindness, and just giving them some tips to navigate that, because it's life, right? It's going to happen. If you're out in the world, it's going to happen every day. You're going to encounter people that have their misconceptions, and you kind of need your toolbox ready to be able to deal with what comes up, and know that you're not the only one, that there's a whole group dealing with it too.
The other thing that strikes me as a really important component of all of this is education, and that's educating the general public. I feel like that's something that still we haven't really cracked the code on in terms of being able to really
prove to the public we're competent, that we're able, we can be independent.
You're right. It is. So actually, that's kind of something we're planning this year that's new and exciting is we're developing a speakers bureau. We're hoping to come up with a name that's a little more exciting than speakers bureau, but training youth or young adults or a bunch of competent blind people to go out and actually look for opportunities to do public education and do presentations, because it's only like you can give these youth all the skills in the world and all the confidence, build them up.
Right.
And then you're still sending them out into a world that might not be ready. And I wish there was, I used to dream about being like the Rick Hansen of blindness. Like, I feel like we need some blind person to do some amazing thing, but it's not really that. That's not really going to solve the problem, because it's not, you don't need some big inspiring person. You just need people to realize that blind people are just like everyone else. we just do things a little differently. And there's a couple things that sighted people could do that makes life easier, but it's not that big of a deal, really. It's not as much of a big deal as everyone thinks it is, I think.
Right. Now we're all deep in thought.
Yeah.
Well, just
Trying to come up with programs for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out some gimmick that send Shawn around the world on a horse or something.
I wanted to ride my bike across the country back when I was learning echolocation with Daniel Kish. That was kind of, I thought, oh, that'd be cool. Just, blind person riding a bike. But I had a hard enough time just riding down the street. I wasn't that good at it.
Practice.
Yeah. But I don't know, some kind of public service announcement or something. Like, people don't care until it matters to them.
That's right. That's exactly
I also think I don't really know how to start a blog, but I've written lots of blog posts, and basically every day, not every day, but whenever something happens that ticks me off, somebody's comment, somebody's reaction, somebody's ignorance, I will write about what happened. And so I have quite a collection, and I feel like they should be published somewhere because it's educational, and I think it's funny sometimes, and it's interesting. I don't know how to do that, though. And will you read it if you're not connected to blindness anyways? Like, who cares about a blind person's, frustrations, really, unless they're in your family or a friend or whatever. So I don't know. It's tough.
But that's almost that. But that's exactly the type of message I feel like needs to be sent to the general public. I almost feel like things like what was that term that somebody used? I think they called it disability porn. Where it was this idea of, or inspiration porn, where it was like all these, this idea of, oh, look, here's somebody who's visually impaired.
Oh, look, they got out of bed. That's so inspirational.
Such an inspiration, we're going to give you a
look, they walked down the street. That's so inspirational.
Yeah, and I think that it's, rightly so. Like, people who are in that situation just roll their eyes at it because it's ridiculous. And I think that we want to move away from that. I read a great quote. I have no idea who said it, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but they were like, look, I don't want to be somebody's inspiration. All I want to do is I want somebody to take 5 minutes and try to understand how I'm living my life and what my day-to-day is. Then I'm happy. I don't need to be, inspiration for the country. And I think that nails it right on the head.
Yeah, exactly. It's that idea that, seeing you. I had somebody at the SkyTrain station say to me once, I see you often here, and if I'm having a bad day, it just makes me so grateful for my situation. And I'm like, you actually think you're complimenting me, but that's really offensive. My life's better because it couldn't possibly be as good as yours. That idea. So, yeah.
I was chatting with one of the guys from AMI out of their Edmonton office the other day, and I was thinking about that skit that your group did a while back about what not to do with blind people.
Yes.
And I was saying, they should really do segments on that, but not just for what not to do with blind people, but what not to do with people in wheelchairs, and because it's very common across various disability groups that the general public are just stupidly ignorant in how they deal with people sometimes. And there does need to be public education on it. So I think you've got a great idea, and I think you ought to talk to AMI. I think you ought to pitch them on a segment.
Yeah.
Or even some sort of type of program where somebody who's able-bodied is paired with somebody who's blind for 3 hours. How much would somebody who doesn't know anything about what it's like to be visually impaired, if you were to just shadow somebody who was for 3 hours, think of how much you would learn.
Yeah.
On how they get around. I mean,
what would happen though? Other people would be coming up to me saying, "Do you know you're being followed?"
There's some weirdo following you.
He's got a camera.
He's taking notes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some days, some I think of, it's usually when I'm commuting, when I'm back and forthing to wherever that stuff happens. And sometimes nothing happens, and it's just like, oh, wow, that's refreshing. No one bugged me today. Nobody asked me about my blindness. Nobody tried to help me unnecessarily. But yeah, usually there is something. There's some really crazy thing.
Well, it happens right across, it happens all around the world. I follow a couple people on Twitter who are, have hashtags they use called Ask Don't Grab. And, they go across the street and somebody's dragging them across the street and they didn't want to, go that direction. They want to go the other way or,
Yes.
These things happen. So education is important. I just don't know how we get it out to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think you implant tasers on the sleeves of your jackets. Somebody walks up and grabs you, they just go berserk.
That'd be great.
Tell us a little bit about the gala that's coming up. When is it and what is it?
So it's April 6th, and it's our annual fundraising dinner and auction. So we'll have a silent auction, a live auction. We've got WestJet tickets we raffle them off with our balloons. So you buy a $50 balloon, you only sell so many, and you have a chance to win these tickets. Plus, we'll have like second and third prize as well. We actually had a really awesome MC, and then she double booked herself, so I won't name her, but I'm really disappointed. So we're looking at figuring out who our MC is going to be. Back to the drawing board.
Are you serious? She's not coming now?
No. I know.
Aww.
She's the keynote at some other gala.
Of course she is. Yeah.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. Anyways, but it's always a fun night. There'll be entertainment. There'll be some speeches. We'll be giving out our Seeing All People Award, and I'm really excited about the business that's getting the award this year. So yeah, I think one of the best things about the event is that it's a really positive evening. I think a lot of galas can sort of play on the pity angle of, these poor children, these poor people, please give us money so we can help them. Blind Beginnings isn't really about that. Basically, we need support so that kids can grow up to be self-sufficient, independent, happy adults. And, with the right support, they absolutely will. So nobody needs to feel sorry for them. It's just, they do need a little bit of extra support along the way in order to get there. And so, yeah, I like that. It's my favorite, probably my favorite day of the year, because I get to see lots of people that I like and know coming together to show their support for something that's so important to me. So it's really fun. It's kind of like better than Christmas. And it's at the Executive Inn near Lougheed SkyTrain Station.
Yay.
So it's walking distance from the SkyTrain, so you don't need to drive. And really fun. Tickets are $100, and you can buy them on our website, blindbeginnings.ca. And we're going green this year, so there's not going to be any physical tickets. So you'll have to check in at the door, and then we'll let you know which table you're at. But you can write down who you want to sit with when you buy your ticket. So if you have other friends and you want to be at the same table, you can make that arrangement.
Now, in terms of fundraising, is this the big fundraising event for you guys during the course of the year?
It is. I wouldn't say, it is the biggest fundraiser that we do, and it's put on by a committee of volunteers mostly. This year, based on our budget, we will probably maybe raise 10% of what we need to raise in the year. So it's not like, 50% of our funding comes from this event. Because in the beginning, like the first gala, I think we raised $10,000. Well, that's not going to go very far, right? But it's also, I think, it's an important fundraiser, but it's also an opportunity to kind of showcase what we're doing, celebrate what we're doing, and raise awareness.
What else you want to talk about?
I know, I feel like I've been here so many times now.
Get used to it. It's an annual thing.
Is it? Okay.
Absolutely.
Probably more than annual.
That could be a regular.
Yep.
Deep Thoughts by Shawn.
That's what
right.
we want. What's pissed me off this week?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Actually, my latest beef is when I bump into people and I say sorry and they
I do that all the time.
But like, why do they not answer? Just acknowledge something, like say it's okay, or say, oh no, I'm sorry, or say something, but they're just silent. And then I feel like, why did I apologize? You should have apologized. You're the one that can see.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'll be walking with my wife's sighted guide and I'll bump into a pole and say sorry.
Well, totally. Yeah.
I don't even know it's a pole necessarily, but yeah, they don't answer you back and just makes you angry.
Totally.
The pole is never going to answer you back, Ryan.
Well, it might one day. You never know. It might have a beacon in it. And AI poles. Yeah.
Sure. Google Assistant.
That's right.
Lampposts.
Eye beacons.
Well, hey, let's just throw this out into the room. What piece of AT have you been playing with recently that's excited you? Anything? Have you tried Ira?
I haven't, but everybody is telling me that I need to. So I was gonna do they had like a 7-day free trial, but I was heading to Vegas that week, and I thought, well, I don't want to use data while I'm away, so I downloaded the app, but then I never followed through and actually connected. So I do want to try it. It sounds pretty incredible. I'm still pretty impressed with seeing AI.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's probably one of the best things that's come along in a long time, and that's kind of what I'm using. So even to identify, a can in my cupboard or something in my fridge, or just a piece of mail that comes through, because it's just quick and easy. But yeah, I'm so not techy, you guys. I'm not, like, I'm the last one to try most things, because I want to make sure that I know lots of people that know how to do it for when I get into trouble, because I inevitably will get into trouble and not know how to work it. So,
and do you ever have a fear, like the rest of us old folks?
Are you calling me old?
Well, you know what?
That was Rob.
I'm just saying, welcome to the club, because you are of a generation. I'm just saying,
throwing her under the bus.
You're of a generation that
This is one of my camp kids you're talking about. So if she's old, what is that? Where does that leave me?
Buddy. But no, you've been around before smartphones.
Are you just digging?
Yes.
So is there a part of you that kind of goes, well, I'm a little afraid of putting so much emphasis on these tools that might take away from hard mobility or hard skills, because people will rely on being able to just pull out their smartphone and take a picture and figure something out that way, and sort of almost make the next generation sort of too reliant on something like assistive technology.
Total. So with GPS, absolutely. I have not used any kind of GPS app, because I feel like if I'm plugged in listening to something nattering on in my ear about where I am, I'm not paying attention to the actual landmarks that I need to orient to where I am anyway. Like, it just feels like I'm going to lose some of that. And I feel, I never articulated it before, but with Ira too, like Ira can guide me somewhere. Mm-hmm. I could walk with it, and like somebody was telling me they found the SkyTrain station that way from wherever they were. And it's like, well, it almost feels like cheating. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, if someone's, veer to your left, you got someone coming towards you. Oh, there's a pole on your right, like whatever. Like that's, I don't know. That just feels like, but what about when they're not there? And like, how realistic is that to be able to pay somebody every time I need to go somewhere? I don't know. I am proud of the mobility skills that I have. And yeah, there are situations where you come across a construction site and you're like, there's a ribbon across here. What does that mean? Yeah. How do I get around this? Where I can see that would be really useful. But yeah, it is a bit scary that we might become too reliant, and then there go the skills that we've worked so hard to get, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's part of my fear as well. I think that stuff like Ira is great as an add-on tool or as a supplement to a really good foundational mobility set of skills. Mm-hmm. But, honestly, people are lazy, mm-hmm. and they'll often go, the quickest, easiest route. And, so especially, with the next generation so tied to smartphones, and, emergent technology, that, the easier that it becomes, the less sexy the idea of going out and doing hard O&M might be to them. So
yeah, and I would say mobility is the one area that there just is so not enough of, and people don't have enough skills, generally speaking.
Yep.
So that's frightening to think that they might get less because there's this technology available to help them. But don't you guys sell Iris? So shouldn't you be saying it's the best thing ever? And
Nope.
Yeah, no, we don't sell it. No.
Okay, that's fine then.
we can slag it all we
we
want.
do sell GPS systems, those, and those are the best thing ever.
Okay. I do sometimes, if I get lost, log in, just Google Maps, and usually that. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't. But I the idea of talking signs, I like that idea. Like, sure. I like the idea of the world being more accessible, not necessarily of me using something to be able to do the basic things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go to a mall and be able to sort of figure out what every store is as I walk along and decide if I want to go in that store or not. I think that would be cool.
It's coming.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, Shawn, it's been an absolute delight talking to you once again.
Thank you.
You need to apologize to her.
What? I didn't.
You called me old.
I didn't.
You can't leave her on that note.
This morning I was talking to a group of seniors, and I forget, I made some reference to being young. And then I thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to say that. Like, I can get away with it if the mean age in the room is like 80, but... So thanks for the reminder, Ron.
Harsh. A little harsh.
Yeah.
Give the gala another plug. Tell us when it is, where it is, and how people can get tickets.
April 6th at the Executive Inn near Lougheed SkyTrain Station, so kind of Burnaby-Coquitlam border. And $100 a ticket, and you can purchase them on our website, blindbeginnings.ca.
And it's a good time. It's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good time. And well, take it from them, because obviously I'm going to say it. But no, I just say check out our website. We have a Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram as well. We've created a Blind Beginnings group for parents that you can access through our Facebook page. So any parent in BC who has a child that is blind or partially sighted, if you want to connect with our group, that would be awesome. We've got only maybe 45 people in the group so far. So I know there's a lot more out there, and they don't necessarily know about the group yet. It's really new. So I feel like that might be another way that families can connect with each other and ask questions and share resources and stuff. So, and if anybody is interested in the Director of Operations position, check that out on our website as well. So yeah, go to the web, read all about us. We're great.
You are.
And we will include all those links in our show notes.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Shawn. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha.
And we will talk again soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Man, she's the hardest working person I know.
She gets a lot of stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And,
she really does.
She's making a monumental change in the lives of a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
The stuff that she's teaching, they wouldn't necessarily get anywhere else.
Nope.
So
guarantee they wouldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe it's 10 years. Had 10-year anniversary last year.
Yeah, crazy. Seems like only yesterday.
Yeah, it seems like just yesterday. We remember hearing that she had left CNIB in order to pursue it.
Yep.
So, man, it made incredible groundwork in just 10 years. So I would love to see it go national. I hope that it gets there one day.
Yeah, she's right, though. It'd be hard to do it regionally because there are so many differences. You'd have to have a chapter for every province.
Yeah. And, again, that's a big step. I can understand her being cautious about not wanting to overstep and stumble. But still, I mean, there's so many outlying communities all over the country that would just benefit even just from an online component for some of these programs.
Yeah.
Especially the parent workshops. I mean, for new parents who have infants who are visually impaired, it's got to be so scary, and you just don't know where to turn.
Yeah. It's, I mean, if you're a parent that's, never had experience with blindness in their lives, and all of a sudden they have a kid who's blind or visually impaired, it's a steep learning curve, and and it's not always obvious where you can go to get information and help. So, and
again, it speaks back to people just don't think about these things until the day that they are required to.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way that's why people there's just no education out there.
Or not enough, for sure.
Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
They can find us online at atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email, if they so desire, at cowbell@atbanter.com. Okay? No, I'm just... Okay, well, we may have to rethink where we've placed it. I think we might have placed it too close to Steve. He's
cowbell happy?
Cowbell.
We'll have to get him a second one so we can do dual cowbells.
Ooh, dueling cowbells.
That's right.
I like that idea.
Actually, he bought that one. That's yours, Steve. That's yours, Steve.
Yeah.
We'll have to get you a second
yeah,
one.
that's right.
Yes, my one donation to the AT Banter podcast is the cowbell.
Your presence is welcome all the time.
Yay. I haven't burned that bridge yet.
Not yet.
I'm the one that keeps leaving his coffee cups down here for Ryan to spill. So if anyone gets booted out of the guitar dungeon, it's going to be me.
Oh, you're welcome too.
All right. Well, I think that's going to about do it for us this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. And we'll see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.